I'm standing here at Herring's House Park, a viewing point of the Duwamish River. Now, this area may seem clean, but it wasn't always like this. Let's dive into the history and the story of the Duwamish River. The history of the Duwamish River reflects a broader story of environmental damage and the community's reaction and push for reform. The Duwamish River can be found on almost any digital map when you zoom in to the big Seattle wording and follow the coast down to Harbor Island. This area is called the Duwamish Waterway and is the main industrial district of the Duwamish. When one looks further upstream, you will find the Duwamish River. It might be hard to imagine, but Seattle wasn't always the technological and industrial giant people think of today. Before white settlers arrived, Seattle was just another untouched piece of land that natives lived on. Here are some original pictures from this area and the natives before industrialization. Colonel Isaac Eby, an original settler of the region, described the region like this. The river meanders through rich bottomland, not heavily timbered, with here and there a beautiful plain of unrivaled fertility. As the protection and care of natives gradually faded away, the Duwamish became an industrial river. Many industries thrived along its banks. Cargo, brickwork, clay, brewing, shipbuilding, concrete production, metal recycling, chemical processing, flour mills, even aerospace manufacturing plants. But this came at a price. All of the pollution, including deadly PCBs, arsenic, mercury, lead, metal, dioxins, furans, petroleum, phthalates, and CPAHs, the Duwamish caused and the fish and people who rely on it to get severely sick. People who used to rely on the Duwamish to put food on their families' tables were no longer able to fish for food. These fish advisory signs can be found all over the lower Duwamish riverbanks and are a stark reminder of the river's past. In the end, the situation became so dire that people began speaking up. Led by people with the likes of Ken Moser, James Rasmussen, Cecile Hansen, Greg Wingard, John Beale, and B.J. Cummings, people stood up. Each and every one of them had their own story about what they saw. Here are just a few examples. Greg Wingard found a pile of drums filled with toxic waste and reported it up to the EPA and also helped the EPA scout the site. John Beale was out on Ham Creek, dragging whatever the river spit out back onto the shore. Neighbors remember him hauling tires with a rope slung over his shoulder, yanking rusted metal out of the mud, and even wrestling old shopping carts free from the current. For thousands of years, the Duwamish River sustained the Duwamish people, providing food, transportation, and the foundation of their culture. Native advocate Cecile Hansen, a descendant of the Duwamish tribe, emphasizes that preserving the history of the river is also part of protecting the identity and the heritage of the Duwamish people. In 2001, the lower Duwamish River was officially listed by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency as a Superfund site. A Superfund site is an area so polluted that the EPA steps in to coordinate and enforce a long-term cleanup, often stretching over decades. Tests along the river showed toxic chemicals settled deep into the sediment, substances that could move into wildlife, fish, and even nearby neighborhoods. The designation marked a turning point. From that point on, the EPA, local governments, and community groups were legally bound to confront the contamination and begin the slow work of restoring the river. There are so many more that I could talk about. Each and every one of these people sacrificed in some way, shape, or form. But they all had one common goal: to make this world a better place for the people who'd come after them. But when the community spoke up, the government finally listened. Today, a massive partnership is at work. The Washington Department of Ecology is the source control watchdog. They're inspecting hundreds of businesses and cleaning up upland sites to stop new toxins from leaking into the water. On the water, the city of Seattle and King County joined the Port of Seattle and the Boeing Company to form the Lower Duwamish Waterway Group. Together, they are investing hundreds of millions of dollars to dredge up contaminated mud and cap the riverbed with clean sand. It's not just about the mud, it's about keeping people safe. King County and Seattle Public Health Services are working on the ground to keep families safe from contaminated seafood, while the EPA oversees the entire Superfund site to ensure the job is done right. The Duwamish isn't completely healed, but the situation is improving. When investigating Duwamish Waterway Park in July 2014, the EPA found that in the area around the water, arsenic levels were as high as 69 arsenic, 3 times higher than the MTCA cleanup standard. After 5 years of cleanup, when the soil was sampled once again in March 2019, the arsenic levels decreased to an average of 17 arsenic points per meter, 3 points below the MTCA cleanup standard. Since the lower Duwamish River became a Superfund site, the work hasn't stopped. Youth groups, the Duwamish River Cleanup Coalition, and countless local organizations continue showing up, planting shoreline vegetation, removing debris, testing water quality, and pushing for long-term restoration. Their message is simple. The cleanup is still happening, and everyone has a role to play. If you see pollution or a spill near the Duwamish River, please contact the Washington State Department of Ecology or the Duwamish River Cleanup Coalition. The story of the Duwamish River shows how pollution, activism, and reform have shaped the river we see today.